What's up guys, Meredith with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're checking out the Raxium Axial Series LED fog lights with the LED DRL fitting all 2013 through 2018 Ram 1500s, excluding the Rebel models. Now you can probably tell that the fog lights can get pretty beat up over time, especially because of where they are on the bumper, showing their age with fogging, scratching, and just general damage that can look unappealing, and it can hinder your lighting performance. Now these, however, will turn the look and the function of the fog lights around with a dark and dynamic appearance, adding that refresh that you may need, and will bump up the light output on the front end if you need some extra assistance. Now with all of that, these will also be an affordable option out of the group if you want an inexpensive solution to freshen up the front end of your Ram. Now digging into the design here, you can plainly see that these will have a black housing, which will create that deep and contrasted appearance to the projector lighting on the inside and the DRL on the outer border. Now the housing will also have details behind the lens, which you may not be able to see from far away, but up close it definitely makes the difference with adding that extra style. Now the biggest feature here is obviously the lighting itself, especially with that fiber optic C-shaped LED light bar that will set these and your Ram apart from other builds with that appearance. Now the second part of the lighting is the multiple LED projectors on the inside that make up the main light, which thanks to the LED will be incredibly bright, but that projector lens is also going to keep the beam very consistent and contained for a substantial increase in lighting performance over the factory set, especially if they have seen better days. Now the housing will have a direct fit construction, and that's because of the molded ABS black plastic housing on the back. Now the lens on these lights will also do a great job at resisting any damage and weathering that you've most likely experienced with your current set because of the polycarbonate construction. Now the polycarbonate is tough enough to take any scratching and impacts, but is still going to offer full transparency. Now the full LED construction will also offer an incredibly efficient design with a low energy draw, allowing a very long lifespan, upwards of about 50,000 hours on average for an LED, so you're not going to have to worry about maintenance with this set either. Now this set of fogs here is going to come in at about $175, again being an affordable choice as far as lighting mods for your Ram go. Now with this set, you do get a lot of pros here for the price compared to other choices, with the full LED build, making these super efficient, the accent lighting that most choices won't necessarily incorporate in the design, and the direct fit, so you're not going to have to do any modification. Now the only drawback that's really not a big deal is the fact that you do have to do some minor wiring and a little bit of extra work for that than just plugging them in. Now with that being the only compromise that you have to make with a set of well-built and great looking lights, I definitely think that this is an overall great option, and we'll show you all the details with the wiring in just a minute. Now install again will require a little bit of wiring, and that's just because the light bar is going to tie into that running light, which doesn't usually tie in there because of the fog light function. Now again, it's going to be minor, so expect a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and it's probably going to take you about an hour to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools. Now that's going to wrap it up here for my review, and now we can head over to our shop and show you a step-by-step how to get these onto your Ram at home, so let's go ahead and get into it.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet, a 10mm socket, a trim panel removal tool, a test light, a pair of wire strippers and crimpers, a pair of pliers, and the supplied quick electrical connectors. Hi everyone, today we're installing a set of fog lights on our Ram, so let's get started with the uninstall. All right, first thing we've got to do is remove our stock fog light here, and to do that we're going to have to remove the 3 10mm bolts from behind the fog light here, and we'll unplug the harness as well. Now you can definitely do this on the ground. We've only got this up in the air so that we can give you a better view of exactly what you're going to be doing to get these fog lights out. So let's go ahead and get that done. First thing we're going to do is disconnect our wiring harness on the side, and to do that we're just going to lift up on the locking tab and slide it out. Then we've got 3 bolts, one here, one there. We'll take our 10mm socket and remove those bolts.
get to one at the top. You want to hold the light in. All right, once you've got the bolts out, just go ahead and slide the light straight back and drop it out. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. Now, because these new fog lights do come with a DRL inside of them, we are going to have to run a wire up to our parking light harness in order to get the DRLs to work. Now, the kit does come with the wire necessary to connect it, as well as a quick connect electrical connector. So in order to be able to do this, we have to remove the headlights first so that we can figure out which wire it is that we need to tap into. So let's go ahead and take care of that. All right, in order to get to our headlights, first thing we've got to do is remove our radiator cover here so that we can access the 4 bolts holding in our grill. And then we'll remove the 4 bolts and then slide our grill out. So to get our radiator cover out, we're going to use our trim removal tool and remove these 6 push pins at the top and lift it out of the way. Now we can remove these 4 10mm bolts at the top of the grill. Now we just grab a hold of our grill and pull it straight out. Now to remove our headlight, first thing we're going to have to do is use this access panel inside the fender liner here to lift up the latch that holds the back of the headlight in. So we're going to use our trim removal tool to remove the push pin that's holding it in. And that gives us access here. And then we just reach inside. Of course, it's a little difficult to get the camera in here because it is so small access. Now you'll be able to reach inside and grab the hold of the latch, and what you're going to want to do is push it straight up, and that will unlock the back of the headlight. Now we can remove the 2 10mm bolts in the front to go ahead and slide our headlight out. Now we just grab a hold of our headlight, pull it straight out. And now we can disconnect the 2 harnesses, one for our headlight and one for our parking lights. So we'll lift up on the red locking tab, push down on the release lever, and disconnect it. Do the same thing for the parking lights, and get our headlight out of the way. Now, as you can tell by looking at our harness here, we've made several modifications to this in the past. You probably will not have all of this on yours. Yours will just be straight wires. So we need to determine which is our hot wire for providing power to our new fog light DRLs. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to use a test light. Now we've already got our parking lights turned on, so we're going to use our test light connected to a ground, and then we're just going to probe the connectors inside the harness here to figure out which one is actually live. So when we insert our probe into the end of the harness, we see that the middle one is one that lights up. So that's going to be our positive power wire that we can hook into for our fog light to get our DRL to work. Now, that being said, the middle one is going to be this white wire here. So the kit comes with a quick connect like this, and what you would do is you would slide this quick connect over the white wire and then insert the end of the yellow wire into the other side. Use a pair of pliers to crimp this down, and then go ahead and close the latch.
Now, obviously, like I said, we've already modified ours several times before, so we're gonna be doing ours a little bit different. So what we're gonna do is strip off about 1/4 of an inch off of the end of the yellow wire that's provided in the kit. Attach a spade bit to it so that we can plug it into our white wire here. So we just strip off about 1/4 of an inch or so, twist it to keep it from fraying, insert the wire into our spade bit, and then go ahead and crimp it down. Then give it a little tug, make sure it's tight, and we can go ahead and connect it to our connector that we've already got in our harness. Now, with that being done, we can go ahead and feed the other end of the wire down in behind where our fog light goes so that we can plug it into our fog light. Now that we've got our wire run, we can go ahead, reconnect our harness to our light. Make sure it snaps into place. Push down on the red locking tab. Do the same thing for our parking light. And then reinsert our light. And reinstall our original hardware. Now we'll tighten them down with our 10mm socket. And now don't forget, we also have to secure our plastic tab in the back through our access panel. So we're just going to reach inside and slide that tab down. Right. I'll just slide that down, lock it into place. Go ahead and insert our push pin into our access panel and lock that down. And now you can repeat that whole process for the other side. Now we're ready to install our fog lights. And as you can see, it does come with an extra harness on here with a pigtail attached to it. Now this is designed if you do not have factory fog lights on your vehicle. Now to use this, you would have to, of course, run some wires and a switch to be able to activate them. And they've got to hook up to a positive and a ground. But since we already have one in ours, we're just going to go ahead and remove this, and we don't need to use it. Now you'll also notice that we have this yellow wire here. This is to connect to the yellow wire that we ran to the parking lights. So let's go ahead and get this plugged in and get it installed and be done with our install. Now we go ahead and plug in our factory connector. Make sure it snaps into place. Connect our yellow wire that we ran earlier. And now we can go ahead and insert our light into position. Now we can go ahead and insert our factory hardware. And tighten them down with our 10mm socket.
And now you can repeat that process for the other side.
Now we can reinstall our grill. And secure it using the original hardware. Now we'll tighten it down using our 10mm socket. Now we can reinstall our radiator cover. And secure it with the original push pins. And that wraps up our review and install of the Raxium Axial Series LED fog lights with LED DRL for your 13 to 18 Ram 1500 excluding Rebel. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.